public on the outside come in an orderly manner without causing any? Okay, looks like. Okay, we've come out of executive session. We've made no decisions in the executive session, obviously, and we did hear just pertinent, confidential, proprietary information about the auction, and I believe that Ms. Knotts has a request to the commission.
Yes, I would like, commissioners, if you are in agreement with what we presented, that you would approve this final report so that it can be publicly released after 21 days.
Thank you, Ms. Knotts. I would ask that a commissioner make a motion incorporating the testimony of Dr. Jim Litzelter and indicating that the process ran very well, that it was very competitive and with a strong result for our consumers, and that there's no area in need of any type of attention. And Raj Brew has got his hand halfway up, which means he has something.
Just to put a final point, can you tell the commissioners what date, instead of saying 21 days, on what date?
February 21st.
A week from today.
Okay, and that would be the date for the release, okay? May we have a motion that incorporates that?
I so move. Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Our thanks to you, Dr. Litzelter. Safe trip home. Thank you very much, Pam.
Thank you.
Director's comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The first item we have on the Director's comments is a memo and a draft application for certification as an eligible energy resource under the Delaware Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. The memo is by Pam Knotts, and what we're seeking is approval of that form. I'd let Pam add any more details to it if you'd like to.
Yes.
Microphone.
Sorry. From time to time, we need to update our eligible energy resource application forms. We have several different forms. This is a primary form that the installers or the generator owners would fill out for an application to be certified in the state of Delaware. Since battery energy storage is starting to take off, we felt that this was a good time to redo the form to include some questions on battery storage so that we can start capturing some of that information. We're trying to be proactive. When we started editing this form, of course, all staff members that typically review the applications had input into the form, as I said in my memo. We also contacted a couple of technical industry people to make sure that the terminology we were using, and we contacted a subset of installers so that we just gave this to them in confidence, not an official document, to make sure that the questions we were asking conveyed what we were trying to get at, and that the terminology was appropriate and that they understood it, because if they can't fill it out, then we're going to not get good information. So we got all that information back. We did the form. We've reviewed it a couple times, and thank you very much, Commissioner Gray, for pointing out a couple of things that we need to correct. I appreciate that. And if there's any questions that you have or any other edits that you see or comments, either, we'd like to put this out to the installers probably sometime next week, but if you need a couple days longer to look at it or to send me any emails, we can hold up. Or if you have questions of why we're, revising it, I'd be glad to answer any other questions that you have.
Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Knox, this doesn't have to do so much with the form itself, but it's conceptual context for me. Are all of the applicants who are filling out this form still going to be interconnected to the grid, or are any of these going to be coming off the grid?
It's a very good question, Commissioner Gray. They will all be connected to the grid.
Commissioner Drexler?
Ms. Knotts, in your experience, are people filling out the 10 questions in complete form under the old form, and do you anticipate that that won't change?
The majority are, because we have a set of installers that typically do business in Delaware. When we have either generators that are not in the state, that have, one or two generating units, such as a solar farm in North Carolina or some wind in Pennsylvania that's not used to Delaware form, sometimes we have to help them with some additional information that they haven't supplied. But typically, our installers do know what's expected, and we're very regimented in the information that we get. We want to make sure that, first of all, we don't certify anything that's not operational. So, we have a series of questions that we ask for that. And then with the battery storage, the one thing we want to make sure that we capture is that batteries that are connected to the grid cannot also be connected with the solar panel generation at the same time. So they can be connected separately through the same inverter, but they cannot commingle the measurement, because we don't want a battery that's being charged from the grid to be commingled with generation from solar panels, so that they would increase their solar renewable energy credits.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I've looked at the application, and the feedback I provided had to do with some very, very, very minor edits. And so I would move that the commission adopt this new form as submitted.
Second the motion?
Is there any discussion on it? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Knotts.
Thank you very much.
Very well done.
Thank you, Pam. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm going to announce a list of evidentiary hearings that are coming up. Docket number 17-1094. It's about the electric vehicle charging stations. That's on February 28th here at 10 a.m. And after that, there are 4 hearings that are going to be before you on March 5th. Docket 16-1031. DPNL's wind generated renewable energy credits. Docket 18-0179. DPNL's standard offer service rates, procurement costs adjustments. Docket 18-0180. Thermal Power's renewable energy portfolio standard rates. And docket 18-1176, Chesapeake's environmental rate rider. All 4 of those dockets are coming before you directly on March 5th. It's going to be a long meeting. And
Thanks.
yes, go ahead, Commissioner Gregg. You had a question? Then the next commission meeting is on Tuesday, March 5th, 2019, and I have no other comments.
It doesn't appear we have anybody from DENREC who needs to make any type of comments to us.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair?
Gray?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So a couple of commissioners have just spent the past few days at the NARUC Winter Policy Summit meeting in Washington. Just a few things that impact the Delaware Commission. There was a scholarship awarded for training from the Education Subcommittee, and I'm pleased to announce that Dimitar, on staff here, has been awarded that scholarship, thanks to NARUC. And I don't know whether you want to mention the Puerto Rico request for staff support, but I guess the executive director will take a look at some information I just passed over this morning, where there's a request for some staff support in Puerto Rico. PEPCO offered a tour of a technology center they have in D.C. about a block away from where the conference took place, and I thought it was very interesting to walk through some of the thinking and the advanced technologies that they have there. And that's basically all I wanted to share.
On the Puerto Rico request, I talked to the Puerto Rico commissioner after one of the meetings yesterday, and these are short-term assignments that the that the home commission, like if we send one of our staff over, we would be paying the salary as is. So but they'd be going on a trip based on, and the cost of the trip would be paid by NARUC. I have to get more details, and there are other issues that we need to sort it out, plus whether we have staff free or not, and whether the subject matter matches. So I thank you, Commissioner Gray, for pointing that out. Puerto Rico is trying to revive its whole grid since their disaster a few years ago. And so any help we can do would be good. That's all I have. It was a good New York meeting. And I think it also benefited some of our staff members who went. And I think in the future, we'll try and have more staff members go to New York meetings, depending on subject matters. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner. I don't have anything else.
Looks like we're at the end, so